Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me Swastika and today we will be covering the Vice President of India. So we are basically covering this topic because I got a request from some of my subscribers who felt that things need to be covered topic wise, and Indian polity is something which is questioned in almost all the papers from paper 1 of UGC net to paper 2 of UGC net political science. Questions related to Indian polity are also going to be asked in your DU Masters entrance paper, in your JNU Masters entrance paper. So it's not a topic that you can leave, and luckily it's an easy topic to do. So in one of my previous videos, I have already discussed the President of India. You can refer to that, and in the upcoming and the following videos, I am going to be discussing Indian polity, and in particular today, I am going to be discussing the Vice President of India. Okay, so I have done my master's in political science from Jawaharlal Nehru University. I have done my bachelor's in political science from Delhi University. And in case you like my content, please don't forget to subscribe. You can also ask your questions and doubts in the comments section down below. So without any further ado, let's begin. So I will mostly be referring to Laxmikanth, Indian Polity, chapter number 18. I think most of the people who have done political science know that Laxmikanth in Indian Polity is a staple book that you have to study while studying Indian Polity. I have also referred to the Constitution of India. This is a must. You have to have the Constitution of India in hand. I have also referred to my class notes. So in this video, we would be going over a brief introduction, following which we would be discussing the election pattern. We would be discussing the qualifications that are required to become the vice president. We would be discussing the powers and function. We would then be discussing vacancy, and after that we would be discussing a short comparison between the Indian vice president and the American vice president, and lastly and the most importantly we would be discussing some important articles. But before I begin, I just want to say that I have gone through a couple of the question papers, and the questions that are asked in the previous years related to vice president are very easy, and I think you just need to watch this video and you will be able in a position to answer most of them. So let's begin. So the Vice President of India is called the Chairman of Rajya Sabha. He occupies the second highest office in the country, and our Vice President is modeled along the lines of the American Vice President. The article in question, whenever we talk about the Vice President, is going to be article number 63, and his term in the office is 5 years. The office of the Vice President can only be terminated earlier than the fixed term, either by resignation or by removal. So the Vice President of India is very similar to the President of India. Most of the things are going to be same. They almost run parallel to each other. There are going to be some differences in terms of how the electoral college of the Vice President is constituted. We will just get to that shortly. Okay, so let's get to that. So the election of the Vice President is such that it is done indirectly, and he is elected indirectly by the means of single transferable vote. This is also done in a secret ballot. His election is held in accordance with the system of proportional representation. The state legislature does not take part in the election of the vice president. The electoral college of the vice president consists of members of both the houses of the parliament, elected and nominated. So this is perhaps the difference between the vice president and the president, that the electoral college of the vice president consists of both the elected members as well as the nominated members of the parliament. It also does not include the members of the state legislative assemblies, though in the case of the president, the elected members of the state legislature assemblies are included. So this is the key difference between the electoral college of a president and the electoral college of a vice president. Lastly, we see that B.R. Ambedkar had said something interesting. He had said that the president is the head of the state and his power extends to the administration by the center as well as to the states. Consequently, it is necessary that in his election, not only members of parliament should play their part, but the members of the state legislature should have a voice. But when we come to the vice president, his normal functions are to preside over the council of states. It is only on a rare occasion, and that too for a temporary period, that he may be called upon to assume the duties of the president. So, because the president presides over both the center and the states, the vice president presides over the council of states. So, that being so, it does not seem necessary that the members of the state legislatures should be invited to take part in the election of the vice president. So, he said that obviously in accordance to the second point of the electoral college, which says that the electoral college of the vice president does not include members of state legislative assemblies, and B.R. Ambedkar gave us a brilliant reason as to why it doesn't. So the next thing is, what are the qualifications that are required for one person to become the vice president of India? This is exactly the same as president. I mean, almost. So one is obviously that he must be a citizen of India. He must be over the age of 35 years. He must not hold any office of profit. He must be qualified for elections as a member of the Rajya Sabha. He must not hold any office of profit and he should not be a member of any house of the parliament. His nomination must be subscribed by at least 20 electors as proposers and 20 electors as seconders. So I think this is self understood. The important point that sometimes people get confused over is perhaps the fourth one, which says that he must be qualified for election as a member of Rajya Sabha. Rest of the points are simply a mere repetition of the requirements of a president. Okay, let's move on. Now we are going to discuss the powers and functions of the vice president. So, as we have already discussed, he acts as the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. So, his role as the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha is somehow and somewhat similar to the speaker of Lok Sabha. He acts as president when a vacancy occurs and he can do so for a maximum period of 6 months. When he acts as a president, he does not perform the duties of the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. During this period, the deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha will take over. So I think this is self-understood that if there is a vacancy in the position of the president, the vice president takes over, and while the vice president is acting as the president, which he can do so only for a maximum period of 6 months, he will not be the chairman of Rajya Sabha, and that position would then be occupied by the deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha. So the order is like this. It's the president, followed by the vice president, followed by the deputy chairman, followed by the Chief Justice of India, followed by the senior most judge of the Supreme Court. So this is something that you just have to keep in mind. The next thing that we are going to quickly see is the case of a vacancy. So a vacancy in the vice president's office can occur in any of the following ways. First, on the expiry of a tenure of 5 years, on his resignation, on removal, on death, or if he is disqualified. So, if the vacancy is going to be caused by the expiration of the term of the sitting vice president, an election to fill the vacancy must be held before the expiration of the term. So, lastly, we would be discussing a short comparison between the Indian and the American vice president. So, this is very easy to understand. Basically, the Indian vice president has been modeled along the lines of the American vice president. So, but there are certain differences. The difference is that the American vice president succeeds to presidency when it falls vacant and remains president for an unexpired term. So in America, what happens is that if this is the president and this is the vice president, and let's say the president's office falls vacant, the vice president will immediately take over for an unexpired term. In India, the vice president is not going to resume the office of the president when it falls vacant for an unexpired term, but he merely serves as an acting president. So in India, even if the president's office falls vacant, the vice president will take over, but he will not do so for an unexpired term, but merely as an acting president. So lastly, this is super important, this section. In this we are discussing the important articles. Examiners love asking questions, especially the people who prepare the NTA bank. They love asking questions and random articles, and these list of articles are not random. In fact, they're very important. So the article 63 states that there shall be a vice president of India. Article 64 states that the vice president to be the ex officio chairman of the Council of States. The exact words are, the vice president shall be ex officio chairman of the Council of States and shall not have any other office of profit. Article number 65 is important because it says that the vice president is to act as president during casual vacancies or during the absence of the president. We have discussed article number 65, this point, at great length. Article 66 talks about the election of the vice president. So in this, a lot of things such as the eligibility are being discussed and so on and so forth. Article 67 talks about the term of the vice president in office. We know that this term is for 5 years. We already know that, and there are some corollaries to it as well. Article 69 talks about an oath or the affirmation by the vice president. Thank you for watching my video, guys. In case you like it, in case you found this content useful, please don't forget to subscribe. You can definitely ask your doubts down below and I will respond to them. You can also connect with me on Instagram. That's going to be absolutely great.